sang this to you guys one time before. It's one of my favorite Shlomo Nigunim, but people don't sing it. Come in. People don't sing it so much, but I think it's one of the best. Okay, no words, so there's no excuse. Okay. So special to jump right back into these learnings. Sorry. And tonight we're going to be learning, first of all, Leilu Nishmas Yitzchak Leib Ben Zelig, and for the refuah shlema of Michal Moshe Ze'ev Ben Yehudis, Leah Dvorah Kibisi Abbas Chaya. I was there this morning. I was with Michal. Big kibisi. Natan Daniel ben Malka, Binyamin Nachman Mordechai ben Ilana, Chai Yocheved bat Tzipora Fremet, and what did you say?
Zecher Akiva ben Avraham.
Leilu Nishmas Akiva ben Avram. We were there yesterday in Karmei Tzur. There's a lot more that a lot of crazy stuff. And right now there's I want to tell you how much chizuk I got today from visiting our friend Michal Golem. Very, very ill, and what was amazing to see was that while we were sitting there the whole time, while we were talking Torah, he was alive. Mamash alive, and he even said this. He said that while the only thing that's giving him anything is like while he's put his mochin into the limud, into Torah, he felt like everything was fine. When he's not in that headspace, it's not so simple. So, I don't know, I just learned so much from sitting with him today. Seeing what it means, but Talmud Torah keneged kulam, b'chai b'hem. Torah mamash makes you alive, even if you're very, very ill. Mamash makes you alive. So if he can find life in the midst of his sickness by learning here and there, we can really become a lot more alive through our learning. And Hashem should keep us healthy and strong and get stronger and stronger and stronger today and every day from now on. So. Like you've noticed, I'm sure some of you have noticed that the last few months, whenever we were able to learn, a lot of the times we were learning, we were trying to branch out and do stuff a little bit off of text, out of text, or different tzaddikim, different rebbes. But I always sense that Rosh Hashanah is Elul's this prep towards Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is a prep towards Aseret Tshuva. Aseret Tshuva is a big preparation towards Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a preparation towards Sukkot. Sukkot is a preparation towards Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana is a preparation towards Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres. But for me, and for many of you, all of that is just a preparation for the 16th of Ram Cheshvan. All of Elul and all of Tishrei is just a preparation for Reb Shlomo's Yortzeit. That's how I feel it every single year. I feel it very much like in the week or two right after Sukkot. I even feel it already in Chol HaMoed, but I definitely feel it these weeks, more than ever. And approaching 20 years is not just another date, it's a very, very big date. This year, we approached the 20th year of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, is also his anniversary of his Istalkus, going up to Ginzei Meramim. Yeah, they passed away a few months from each other. There are many tzaddikim. So, heavy stuff. But what I wanted to do tonight was, even though we've been going outside the text, what I really wanted to do, I wanted to go back inside a certain text that we learned once. I don't even know who was there. Maybe 3 or 4, maybe even longer, 4 years ago, at your in-laws in Yerushalayim. One of my favorite texts that we ever have of Rabbi Shlomo, and we're very excited because next Friday, it's supposed to be next Friday, we're supposed to be receiving back the first 2 volumes of Evan Shlomo in 1 volume in Hebrew, which is very exciting. The first one in Hebrew, Pirush HaChumash. And daven for us strong that a lot more should be coming out. A lot more. Because there's just today, mamish, just today, I picked up approximately another 350 hours of video and audio. It's nuts. Absolutely crazy. So there's plenty to do, which is kind of brings us into where we're going to be learning about tonight. You ever feel frozen? You ever feel that, not that you have nothing to do, that you have so much to do, and you are doing so much, but you're doing something. You're doing, not that you can't do anything and you're frozen, but that you're doing a million different things and you're still frozen. Almost like all the good things you're doing, even I'm not just talking about chalila bad things, all the good things that you're involved with aren't making any difference in the way you're feeling about anything. Rav Kook speaks about this in the third or 8th parak in Orot HaTshuvah. Rav Kook speaks about how a person sometimes doesn't have to do tshuva on a specific aveira. He has to do tshuva on something much greater. That he knows that he's doing a lot of good things, and he's learning, and he's showing up to this and that, and he can be doing very holy things. And yet, on the level of ma'aseh, on the level of action, he doesn't feel that he's moving anywhere. Kafu. He mamish feels frozen. How do you explain to someone, especially to our minds that are so trained and brought up in a Western cultured world, where concepts of achievements only equal action, and they never can come out to be not doing anything. How do you explain to someone that dafka, by not doing anything sometimes, you're accomplishing so much more? How do you explain it to somebody? You have to, it's like only with like a lot of emunah can you really feel that by not doing anything, you're actually doing a lot more. But I could solve this for us in a second. How much do we get done on Shabbos? On a soul level. Right? Parshat. And what are you doing on Shabbos? Nothing. Kivo Shabbos mikol melachto. By the way, you have to see this, like Tiferet now says the whole Kiddush with me. It's unbelievable. Friday night, not Shabbos morning, Al Kain Berach. The whole thing, Friday night, my 4-year-old, she says the whole Kiddush, she waits the whole time, she's so tired sometimes. She waits, she stands on the table and she looks at me very, very seriously, like she's mamish, what Kiddush is supposed to be, which is supposed to be Mekabel Edus, that you're mamish giving testimony that God created the heavens and the earth. She stands on this chair over here and she looks at me with such, when she says the words, Kivo Shavat Mikol Melachto, Asher Bara Leim Lasot, this is the day that God stopped doing everything. I realized, because we stop and we don't do anything, we have moments to realize what our children are actually doing in the world and receiving it, taking it inside. After a month of Tishrei, it's very hard to connect to the level of stopping to do things, because you're so involved with doing so many things. In fact, a key point of tshuva is called Kabbalah al-Haba, accepting upon yourself that in the future you will either refrain from doing bad affairs or take upon yourself certain mitzvahs. Here we come right after Tishrei, and we're not even out of Tishrei yet, but because we're already in the Parshias that are out of, it was also Bracha, and even we finished Bereshis this Shabbos, now we're in Noach already, we're going to see tonight how Noach teaches us in the strongest way how to get more things done than you could ever imagine by kind of not doing anything physically at all. Sounds like a dream, right? It's great. You can get so much done by not doing anything. This sounds amazing. Where do I sign up? Not so Parshat. It's not one of these simple deals you find online. This is a very, very, very deep thing. But before that, I wanted to share a thought I had with you. When you learn, when Sefer Parshat Bereshit, and you go through the first Sefer in the Torah, what blows your mind is that it's the most depressing story you'll ever hear in the world. It is the most depressing thing, like we said on Shabbos and Shul. first parents that ever exist in the world are bereaved parents. We look at today, chas v'shalom, we should never know people that lose a child. What pain. We look at them like, oh my God, I can't, and it's true. And chas v'chalila, we should never ever know of these things. The first parents in the world were bereaved parents. Then, God forbid, what freaks me out since I'm a little boy. And thank God, Baruch Hashem, it doesn't never really happen in my family. But very painful thing when you see two siblings that don't talk. Horrible. It's one of the worst things in the world. Those relationships where when it's really between siblings that they don't speak to each other. It's much heavier than any other relationship that goes kaput when it's siblings that don't talk to each other.
Or a parent and a child.
Absolutely. Shalom Eda. We shouldn't know of these things. But I'm dafka talking about siblings because the first two siblings in the Torah killed each other. Welcome to the world. Welcome to our world. Welcome to our origins of humanity. And forget about that. Keep on going down. Murder. And then the master of this director says, I regret this whole deal. This was mamishbach. I see the yetzer of a man, the man's inclination just controls him. And then obviously, we all know that without that last pasuk at the end of Sefer Parshat Bereshit, those beautiful 5 words, V'Noach matza chen be'enei Hashem, it would have been the worst storyline. Imagine you go to the movies, you're told about this is the best movie in the world. Because the one who produced it was the smartest, most intelligent and creative producer in the world. And you go to a movie and you read Parshat Bereshit without the last pasuk. And that's how it ends. Noach, his coming onto the scene, saves everything. There's something about him that saves everything. But what I was thinking about on Shabbos was that as Jewish people, we could read the first Parsha in the Torah and say, wow, look at those goyim. Right? Because are Adam and Chava Jewish? Right? Cain and Hevel Jewish? So you could say, mamish, look at these, if they were Yidden, then it wouldn't be like this, right? If they would have been born as Yidden in the world, then there wouldn't be a story like this. But those goyim. And then you can look at Noach. And one of the things that I even mentioned this in today's mailer about, one of the really bad things that I really can't stand is that when people try to show you that they know a little bit of Torah, they give what's called the Noach bashing drushas. You know what the Noach bashing drushas are? The Noach bashing drushas are to show you, I learned a little Rashi, I learned a Bissel Kedushas Levi. I know I could show you, Noach, he was nobody, but if he was, but let's face it. If God calls Noach an Ish Tzadik Tamim, that's good enough for me to not bash him. At least tonight. If the Ribono Shleilam calls him, Ish Tzadik Tamim, then at least for me, that's enough. Was Noach Jewish? No. Are we known as Bnei Noach? No. And yet the Torah is so adamant that the first 2 parshias have so much to do with people who, we don't even refer to ourselves as coming from them. So obviously this is screaming something very, very big. Very, very huge. And there's a Torah in the Rav Shitzer, Naftali Tzvi Rav Shitzer, the Zera Kodesh, which connects what Noach went through to what you and I have to go through every single day. But before that we have to learn a principle that we learned many times from the great Reb Tzadok HaKohen, and I saw recently this principle is also brought down in the Gra, in the Gaon HaChassid Reb Eliyahu of Vilna. So it's beautiful when you see 2 worlds which on paper aren't exactly coming from the same side of the kitchen, the Gra and the Reb Tzadok HaKohen, say kind of more or less the same thing. Whenever you want to learn something about your own neshama and what you're going through in the world, you have to find its headquarters in the Torah. You have to find the first time something shows up in the Torah. Whatever it is. And when you learn something later on in Chazal, when you learn something in the Gemaras that doesn't make sense, like we saw in Sukkot, a crazy Gemara in Masechet Sukkah, with the Rabbi Shlomo ben Gamliel, we saw a crazy Gemara. And Baruch Hashem, we found the Makor, the source for it in the Torah. Whenever you learn something in the Torah that you're like, what? What's going on over here? Find its headquarters. find the first time it happens. So whether we like it or not, the first time that God rescues someone is Noach. That means that whenever you and I need a rescue, need to be saved from something, and we scream, and the Midrash speaks about this, Yitzia, Imazger Nafshi, release my soul from its prison. Midrash says that David HaMelech was saying that pasuk about what Noach was crying in the Teva. We all think Noach was so happy he was saved. But when Noach saw what was going on around him, according to the tzaddikim, he started freaking out. How did he know that? How did he know how long he'd have to stay in that ark? How did he know? How did he know that really it would take just 40 days and 40 nights? How did he know what the world was going to be like after he left that place of refuge? We don't know. But let's go into his psyche for a second. Let's go into Noach's Kishkas for those 40 days and 40 nights. What was going on with him? Okay, Gewalt, he's saved. But if he's saved and he's just alive, but after that there's nothing else around him, what good is that? And the tzaddikim say Noach was crying in the Teva. He was crying so much, please rescue me. Save me from what's going on over here. So this is a little bit of a play on words, but we're going to get into the text in a second. Is that the Rab Shitzer says, God saying Noach ish tzaddik tamim, which means that Noach was a righteous, holy tzaddik, which is enough for us to say that there's something really strong going on by Noach. That Rashi Tevot, the first letter of those four words, right? Noach, Nun, Ish, Aleph, Tzadik, Tzadik, Tamim, Taf. That Rashi Tevos is the gematria of the word Yisrael, which means that any time a Yidla ever needs to cry out to the Ribono Shel Olam, on a certain level he has to imagine that he's in the Teva right now and he's screaming to God, I see that you have some kind of an asik with me. I see you have some kind of business with me. But what is it? What in the world is going on? There are two types of lonely people in the world. One type of person is lonely because he feels that that God left him. God threw him out of the room. He has no asik with him. And he feels completely deserted. He feels like Mamish Gershon, Megurashim. Like Garish es Adam. They feel exiled. They feel thrown out of the room. That's one type of person. The other type of person is somebody who doesn't feel thrown out. They know that God has some kind of an asik with them. They can sense that God wants something from them because he keeps on sending messages. And he keeps on giving these hidden brachas. And he keeps on giving winks. But the winks they're not enough. And that kind of person needs so much more. So Noach got the wink of all winks by God speaking to him, telling him, find shelter. But that wasn't enough for Noach either. What did Noach do, or what didn't he do, to give him strength to come back into the world after total chaos and total destruction? Why do you think Noach was able to rebuild and do anything in the world after when he left what he left and saw what he saw? Which is really the same exact question that I and many of you in the room and many of the Chevra that are learning with us online have when it comes to how on earth did anyone after 1945, how in the world, from where did they receive any strength to do anything in the world? One of my wonders of all wonders about Rabbi Shlomo is, how is it that 10, 12 years after the gas chambers, he's singing Odi Shama Ba'arayud, singing it? How does that work? Further, the words for Odi Shama, I'm sure you know this, Reb Samcha, the words for Odi Shama, when he first composed it, they weren't Odi Shama. We know Odi Shama, right? In fact, Reb Shlomo wrote that song, it's one of his first songs, and he wrote it for a friend of his who was getting married, but Reb Shlomo was penniless. He didn't have a gift, so he wrote this. So this nigun came down right before, and he gave it to him as a gift at this wedding. But the original words were Kivo Yismach Libeinu Ki Veshem Kodshei Batachnu, which is even harder to understand. Kivo Yismach Libeinu, in Him our hearts will be happy. How does someone sing those words 10 years after the gas change? Don't understand it. And that question is very deep in my family. Like I mentioned to you many times, that my grandmother jumped off the train on the way to Auschwitz after losing a husband and a child. My grandfather, who I'm named after, lost his wife and 2 children. I'm not sure where they met. We have very little information about the whole story. But what in the world made them feel that there's a reason to continue living? Because what they saw and what they could do, something else. The brit that God does with Avram Avinu has to do more with Yiddishkeit, ma'asim, actions, chesed, goodness. The covenant that God has with Noach is a different covenant. What's the covenant that Hashem has with Noach? I'll never destroy the world again. So whenever a person has the strength to keep on going, despite any reason, regardless of any reason in the world, they are tuning themselves to the words Noach, Ish, Tzadik, Tamim, which is the Rashi Tevos of the word Gematria Yisrael. That we have the Tzadikut and Tmimut in us, coming straight from Noach, because it's something that he was very much attuned to. Now, I told you about, that person that did that painting over there, right? That beautiful painting that we have. So I once asked him, he was one of Rabbi Shlomo's first Hasidim. I asked him once, how in the world, and he later, he made it to Haight-Ashbury, and he was one of the first ones Rabbi Shlomo sent to Eretz Yisrael. I think in 1968 or 69, like really the beginning. So I went, and he became an illustrious Breslover Chassid. It was the most beautiful art that you could see. Very, very heilig, very holy neshama. And I once asked him, I said, can you explain why you, and I mentioned his old name to him before he had the new name, and I said, you who came from somewhere in New Jersey originally, were privileged to end up here, be the first person that, really, like a pioneer. He said, all I know is that I was born right after the war. My parents didn't know anything about Yiddishkeit. But after the war, they must have known one thing. There must be Jewish people in the world. That's all they knew. They didn't know Aleph, they didn't know Beis. Gimel, they didn't know anything. They knew nothing. But what did they know? Yidden must go on. The word, the name, Noach, comes from this place of menucha, a certain rest that a person attains inside. Now in the Parsha, last Shabbos is where we meet Noach. Remember, it's very interesting, we speak about this a lot. In the Parshiot, when big figures are introduced, they're introduced right before they're about to be introduced for real in the next Parsha. For instance, at the end of Sefer Bereshit, V'Noach Motzachem B'nei Hashem. And then who shows up at the end of Parshat Noach? Avram shows up, not in Lech Lecha next Shabbos, Dafka over here. Where else do we see this in the Torah? We see it by Pinchas. Right before Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen, Heishiv et Chamati, right before that is Parshat Balak. At the end of Parshat Balak is the story of Pinchas and Cosby and Zimri. There's a lot to speak about there, but it's not the time for right now. But last Shabbos, when it says that when it brings down Noach's name, it says Vayikra et Shmo Noach Lemor Ze Yenachamenu Mima'aseinu. Noach, the word, the name Noach came down into the world. Why? Rashi says, Ze Yenachamenu, he will console us. Yaniach mimenu et itzavon yadeinu. He will rest from us the sadness, the pain that we have to go through with our hands. Now, what does that mean? I'm just going to throw a little thing in here. The pshat is that Rashi explains that until Noach came on the scene, there were no machreshot. How do you say machresha? A plower. Noach invented plowing. That was Noach's invention. And what happens when you have a machine that does the plowing? You have Rahmanis on your fingers and on your hands, right? So Noach, on a literal term, like a literal understanding, Noach gave people a few more years with their fingers and their nails and whatever it is. But we know that Noach really doesn't just come from the word nechama. Noach, the Zohar HaKodesh says Noach naicha letata, naicha le'ela, naicha letata. When Noach comes onto the scene, there's a certain calm, there's a certain menucha that took place, both in the heavens and both down here in this world. Everything we said right now was an intro to understand the piece that Rabbi Shlomo taught, which is in Even Shlomo, but it's re-edited big time right now, after learning this with the Chaver for a few years. And this really has to do with a year of Naicha, which is right now, Shnat HaShmita, which we're in right now. Which, you say the word Shemitah, people have been having these anxiety attacks because they have no idea. What do I do with that? What do I do with that? Okay, it's true. There's all these halachas which you should look into in Nebuch, like everything holy. There's also the opposite of it, which has been tremendous chilul Hashem's. People fighting over who has the kosher hashgacha when it comes to Otzar Beis Din and Heter all this mishagas is we still can't figure these things out, which is unbelievable. But Hashem gives us another chance to somehow figure out a way that we look at each other and instead of saying they're wrong, saying, wow, they might be right and I think I'm right too. And when Mashiach comes, we'll know who's right. And then they'll realize when Mashiach comes, he won't even care who's right. Because it's not about who's right anyway, right? So anyway, all of this was a prep for the text which we have in front of us to do right now. We're not going to get through the whole thing. I don't believe so. And I only think 2 of you were actually with us last time we learned this. But it's a very important piece. Very, very important piece. Literally one of my favorites. And for this week and the next 2 weeks, we're going to be going back to doing texts inside, especially in honor of Rabbi Shlomo's Yortzeit. Just a quick notice. Next week, Shir will either be on Tuesday or Wednesday. I didn't decide it. Okay? But I can't do it on Monday. Okay. Okay. The Bleibel Eger says that Shabbos is kviyah v'kaima, something which is fixed and set. Shabbos is always Shabbos. What does that mean, by the way? What does it mean that Shabbos is untouched? What does it mean that Shabbos is a kviyah v'kaima, that it's always there? Well, as opposed to what? Tuesday? Well, sometimes on Tuesday it's Rosh Hashanah. Sometimes it's not. But on 7th day, it is always, always Shabbos, no matter how you mess around with the calendar. So that's not just that on a date, on a calendar level, Shabbos is always on Saturday. What takes place on Shabbos and the Kedusha of Shabbos is something that you can't mess with, no matter what. There's something about Shabbos. What's that?
Even when it turns out Yom Kippur and you don't eat and you're on the
This was the first year, interesting you point that out. Usually when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, I feel like we got, yeah, I got Shalom. This year, I don't know. This year, Friday night, Yom Kippur, I was imagining, like, wow, can you imagine sitting right now with this mirrors right now, after chicken or whatever, and start singing Me'ein Olam Haba, and I realized this is so much higher right now. I was really tuned. I don't know about you guys. I was really tuned to the Shabbos. By the way, just to emphasize this point, again, I can only speak about where I was. I was in Yerushalayim with the beautiful Chevra, the Chevra by Rabbi Shlomo Katz in Mayanot. Rosh Hashanah was so high. First day, very strong. But like usually, thank God there's 2 days because you only feel a bit more at home at the Machzor on the second day. Second day, flying. Couldn't stop dancing with the Machzor. Mamish, just flying with it. And the davening was so strong, and the Rav there is a very precious, holy neshama, Rabbi Gestetner, and the area there in Achlaot is it's very magical. You know what the highest was? Friday night. Friday night davening was, on a certain level, even stronger than Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It was amazing. We were dancing for hours. It was as if no one stood in shul for 7 or 8 hours in the morning. And I feel bad for the Chabadskis, it's funny, like all year long they eat before they have children kugels before dav, whatever it is. They might drink a bissel before davening, coffees, this and that. The one day a year they don't eat before davening is that they do not eat before Tkiyas Shofar. Like the one day a year, which is as long as davening, they don't touch anything before they eat, before they hear Tkiyas Shofar. So they're mamish looking at mamish, they're flying, but they're very pale by 2, 3 p.m. Nothing went into their mouth. So you think you come shul Friday night, a bit more, okay, everyone would be relaxed. It was booming. The Rav said a gewalt thing. He said, "This is what tshuva me'ahava now looks like, because we're busy for 2 days. Tshuva out of yira, there's this yira, there's this awe, and then you go right into Shabbos tshuva. It's like, this is how a yid does tshuva out of ahava. He dances he just goes for it, right? So that Friday night, because Shabbos, no matter what you do, it's Kviyah V'Kaima, the Kedusha is right there. It doesn't matter where you were. It doesn't matter how high you were a second ago. And it doesn't matter what's going to happen Motzei Shabbos. I mean, how often have the Shabbos, sometimes Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, so what do? You push it off to Motzei Shabbos, right? Sometimes the highest Shabbatot that we've ever had have been those Shabboses, right before Tisha B'Av. So there's something about Shabbos, the inherent Kedusha within it, Kviyah V'Kaima. It's just there. You can't mess with it. You can't touch it. Shabbos is always Shabbos. That means, Rabbi Shlomo says, this means that Shabbos is that one thing which is untouched. It's this one holiness in the world which cannot be destroyed. This means that there is something inside each and every one of us which is so holy that nothing can destroy it. Who believes that? How come only one person in the room raised their hand? Unless the question wasn't clear. Or you're all just so scared to be holy. This means that there's something inside each. If Shabbos is an os, is like this simon between us, Beini uven bnei Yisrael, os hi la'olam. We say it all the time. If Shabbos is this like ot, I don't know what the right word is for English, but this is why באמת השיר הזה אמור להיות בעברית, אבל אף אחד לא יבין מילה אחת שאני אומר פה עכשיו. Right? Besides the tzabarim that are born here. It's a sign forever. Shabbos is a sign forever. So if Shabbos is a sign, something between me and God, that means that something about Shabbos is very much alive in me. And if Shabbos is untouched, the Kedusha lasts forever. So Rabbi Shlomo says this means there is something inside each and every one of us which is so holy that nothing can destroy it. It doesn't matter what you go through. Rabbi Shlomo once said, could you think that there's a big enough Aveira that could permanently detach a Yid from God? There's no such thing. I want you to open your hearts. There are two kinds of holiness. There's a holiness which I could add on to, where each time I do something good, I add to it. And God forbid, if I do something wrong, I make it a little bit less. That's a certain Kedusha in my life. That it's dependent on my ma'asim, on my actions. How refined I am, or how much I'm slacking in certain areas. And based on how good or how bad I am, that Kedusha either goes up or goes down in my life. Look, Shalom Bayis. If I'm really working strong on Shalom Bayis, the Shalom Bayis goes up. If I'm really mamish slacking and I'm not, and it's something that I'm not actively working on, and we all know that the only type of marriage is a marriage that can mamish as a binyan adayad is a marriage that is constantly being worked on consciously or subconsciously, but hopefully consciously, more than subconsciously. So that's one level of Kedusha. Now he says, and then there's a holiness which is inside of me. Everybody has it. By some it's shining, and by some it's buried, but it exists within you. And this kind of holiness is indestructible. It is really so holy, which is the most God-given gift. Nobody can touch it. It can't be destroyed, which is just like Shabbos, something which is always there. So let's go back to the Shalom Bayis example. Then you have marriages that it's true, you have to always work on it no matter what. But even sometimes when it's a little bit shvach, what keeps it going? The second type of Kedusha. That, if it's mamash zivug min hashamayim, and it's very clear to you, this is your soulmate, whether I'm not acting good or acting good, it's always there. There's something that's always there. But forget about zivugim for a second, look at it in our own lives. How often have you felt close to the Ribono Shel Olam, which is based on your actions? Most of the time. How often do you feel close to God and you feel connected to the Ribono Shel Olam, regardless of any action you ever did? You're not an example tonight. You're flying tonight. You hear the you hear the.
Just have to feel close to
Then he's
God
not like
because
Rabbi
of that.
What's that? Sorry?
Maybe it's where we live and all. I walk outside, I look around me, and God is there. Marabi Masecha Hashem, Malach Tinyanecha. It's like, I don't know, maybe people live in the city don't feel it. I watch the sun set, I watch like the rain, yes, it's amazing.
We're not saying that no one does, but we're saying that we're trained to think that closeness, what achievements have to do, like success is achievements. Achieving. How hard I worked on something, or how hard I didn't work on something. How hard I refrained from something. But then there's something else that's going on which is beyond whatever I actually do or don't do. It's inherent. It's the Pintele Yid that the Alter Rebbe speaks about. And the Alter Rebbe speaks about this love that a Jew has for the Ribono Shel Olam, and he calls it Ahava Mesuteres. That it's this like love that when you wake up in the morning, you have to wake up the love that you have for God with you. That's what you're busy doing Shacharis. When you go shluf, the love that you have for Ribono Shel Olam kind of goes shluf also. So the whole point of davening, and the Alter Rebbe goes through this in many of his discourses, is just to wake up that ahava for God, that love you have for God, to wake it up with you. That's the whole mode of Tfilat Shacharit, to wake it up with you. That which is always there. Okay, now let's go back inside. And here we come to Noach. What was so special about Noach? Which holiness was he holding on to? Let me ask you, friends, do you know how much light there is in the world? Like Zelda, you walk out of your house, you look outside, you're flying, right? Unbelievable light. As long as the world exists, there's a great abundance of light coming down from heaven. And we spoke about this before, like in the summer, that there's no shortage in light. There's major shortage in vessels. There's no shortage of light. There's just a shortage of what could I put the light in? How do I build a kli to grab everything that's there? That's the shortage of it. I'm trying to think, there's something my memory. What was there? There was a crazy show when I was a little kid, and it was called Double Dare. Does anyone remember that show? Remember Double Dare? Was it Double Dare? And it had all these. What was it exactly? It had all these different. What's that? All these races and all these different, all these wacky things. But one of the things that stuck to me so deep was you'd walk around with a sack, and what you could do is you had to see how many hot dogs could you throw into your sack at once, right? So whenever I think of lahavdil elef alfi avdalas, I don't know why this is engraved in my whatever. I didn't choose to be born in that era in Los Angeles. This is not my choosing in this world. I did a lot of funny choices, but I didn't choose to grow up like this. But I always imagine our sacks, just running around the havdil, not hot dogs, but what do I put it into? How do I store that which is coming down from Shemayim? And then that one episode, someone thought he had everything and he kept on putting it up. And then he realized when he picked up his sack, the whole thing fell through from the bottom. And everyone started laughing at him, and that touched me also very deep as a little kid. Because I thought about people that think that they're on the right path, and they put so much into their Yiddishkeit, they throw so much into their own sack, and then only to realize that it wasn't sealed from the bottom. They didn't know how to take it with them, walking into the year. Now, let's get really we're already on a detour, let's go even further. How much light came down during Tishrei? How much light is coming down since Elul and Tishrei? How many different opportunities did we have during the month of Elul and Tishrei to put things into this sack, into this kli? really called the heart. So one of the problems is that we thought we kept on putting it on our heart, but we realized something, the heart wasn't open. So we just put things on our heart and kept on walking, and they just fell off of us because they didn't go inside. But if the heart is open, then you walk into the year just as a kli kibul, as a vessel that's taking in all the moments you had, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. And you stop freaking out about, okay, what do I do now? What do you do now? Let it settle inside a little bit. You have it. It exists. Now, welcome to Parshat Noach. Go into the Teva. Go into the Teva. Go inside that thing which you formed the whole month of Elul, the whole month of Tishrei. Just go inside it. Stop worrying so much about what more can I put inside. How about take a look at what's inside right now? But we're not accustomed to think like that because we always think we have to keep on doing, keep on taking upon myself something. Look, this shir is very personal to me tonight, more than ever. Because I'm having this really weird time trying to understand why on a ma'aseh level, on an action level, a lot of things have been going on. A lot, more than I could ever imagine. But I feel on a certain level frozen. And I think it's because I haven't like taken a second to stop and realize what has been put into my sack. And everyone has, different things in their own pack, whatever it is. And this is the time for it. And when I saw this Torah tonight, I was like, wow, he's going to get to it. This is really where he's aiming to. This is really what's happening over here. So again, this paragraph on the bottom of page 1. Let me ask you, friends, do you know how much light there is in the world? Unbelievable light. As long as the world exists, there's a great abundance of light coming down from heaven. It's unbelievable how much energy there really is. The question is, what happens to it? Sadly enough, most of it is just floating around. Nobody picks it up. Nobody stops to pick it up. You know what Noach did? Can you imagine one good man in a whole lot? Where does he get his strength from? He picked up this light that simply exists as long as the world exists, which is this second type of holiness. And I want to stop for a second and try to explain. When Noach came out of the ark, what did he have to work with to feel that there's a chance for anything? The first few moments he comes out of the teva, he has nothing. Before that, before he starts planting, what does he see? He has nothing. But what does he see? That there's existence. The world still exists. That must mean that there's kedusha in the world, because the world still does exist. So Noach is picking up the kedusha, the second type of kedusha, the kedusha that is always there, regardless of achievements, buildings, plaques, physical successes in this world. It's going to get a little bit clearer in a second. This is what gave him the strength to hold on once he left the ark. Yeah, and why did he need so much strength? Look what Rabbi Shlomo says here. Before the flood, there were maybe, this is based on the Midrashim, before the flood, there were maybe billions of more people than there are today. Because people were much stronger. People lived thousands of years. Look, how long did the first man live for? 930 years. Right? Adam HaRishon lives for 930 years. People lived thousands of years. A woman didn't have 1 or 2 children. They had 10, 20 children. They were so strong, unbelievably strong. So mamish, millions of people all drowned. Like we think, oh, it's the beginning of the world, so not that many people really drowned, right? Because how many people could have there been? What year does this take place, the Mabul? How many years into the creation of the world? Approximately. 1,000. 1,000 years. What year is Avram Avinu born in from the creation of the world? Come on, very Zionist question. Come on, the Tzionim. 1948. Right? 1948 from the creation of the world, Avram Avinu is born. There's 10 generations from Adam till Noach. Then there's 10 generations from Noach till Avram. So approximately, if each generation is around 100 years, and it's 10 generations, it's 1,000 years already into the world. But again, how many people were giving birth all the time to crazy multitudes, and people, not like that people kept on going, every 80, 90 years they would do machlif mishmarot. Every 6, 7, 800 years people would die. So when the flood comes and there's a mabul, there were billions of people in the world already. And he sees nothing when he comes out. When Noach came out of the ark after the flood, something happened to mankind. Like after Noach comes onto this thing, right? When he comes out and these people start having children again, they were maybe half their size and they only lived the most for 120 years. A woman had maybe only 1 or 2 children. So if you looked at the world like that and realized, wow, so many less people are dying much earlier, it seems that everything is just shrinking. Everything is becoming smaller and smaller. So the question is, how did Noach stay so strong? So the Sochat Shover says, the Shem Mishmuel says, that Noach comes from the word menucha, to rest. Noach is coming from the world of Shabbos. What did Noach do? What happens on Shabbos? Only on Shabbos. And I dafka wanted to learn this piece tonight because this is a year of Shabbos. So the words we're saying tonight have to do with the whole year of Shnat HaShemitah. What only happens on Shabbos, what only happens in the land for 7 years. It should be a zgula for us to be very connected to the land this year, more than any other year. On Shabbos, we don't have to do anything. So what are we doing if we're not doing anything? On Shabbos, we're picking up. We're just picking up the whole energy which is coming down. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to add by doing something. Your thing is not doing. Your thing is just to receive. Just to be a kli kibul, a vessel that receives, a receptor. How do we begin Shabbos? Kabbalist Shabbat, right? Kabbalat Shabbat. Isn't that amazing? The first thing you do is a non-doing act. It's just to be, okay, bring it to me. You're receiving Shabbos. That's the acting, that's how you start Shabbos. By receiving it. You're not doing anything. You're just letting it absorb into you. Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalat Shabbat, the receiving of Shabbos, to receive Shabbos. So you know what it is? I want you to know something very, very deep. A lot of people are ready to do everything in the world. Everything good in the world. But very few people have this depth to receive something. To just take something in. And not feel like you have to do anything. Now, why is it? So look what he says. Receiving Kabbalah is a very high thing. The problem is that we confuse it with stupid pride. What does that mean? We confuse it with stupid pride. We think, what do you mean to receive? Like Rabbi Shlomo said somewhere else one time. He said, when someone gives you a compliment, what's your first reaction?
No.
Right. Why? Where does that come from? No. Wow, you did such tremendous things today. Your mamish, the way you spoke on Shabbos, that gesture you made to somebody else was so beautiful. No, please. Wow, you look so good. I've gained weight, like whatever, anything, right? It's always this pushing away a compliment. Where does it come from? Why do we do that naturally?
Because we don't have the feeling.
To what?
To receive.
Why? Where does it get? Why don't we have the kelim?
Because it's scary.
Why? Sorry, I'm pushing your button, but this is it. Why is it so scary to receive something?
Because the light is so much stronger than the darkness. It's like much easier to see all the darkness in the world and focus on that than to see all the light, because the light is so much stronger.
Right. So when someone tells you, your course, Jackie, it was saved, how much saved my life? Respond.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot, but go for it. We're scared sometimes that people will think.
That's great.
Right. We're scared.
Responsibility of we don't feel ourselves
Nachon, it's a
worthy enough.
That's
right.
right.
They're complimenting us and we just did something. But the minute that you get that compliment, there's a responsibility that comes with it, and you suddenly, there's a burden on your shoulders.
What's the responsibility?
No, I think everyone looks at it as a thing of, if right now I got a compliment,
Yeah?
and I'm like, oh wow, thank you, I totally deserve that. And then all of a sudden people look at me and like,
No, but wait, let's stop. Let's stop. Thank you doesn't mean I totally deserve that.
no, I'm saying, a lot of people take it in a way.
That's what we
feel
take it. That's what
comfortable.
we take it. But that's because we don't yet know how to just be a kli kibul, receiving. You know what's so stupid? We're so big on like pushing back compliments. Shabbos comes, we have no time receiving all the compliments in the world by receiving Shabbos. You know what it means to receive Shabbos? It means that someone in Shamayim is telling you, you're worthy of bliss. No, please, I'm really not. I'm really not. That's what Kabbalist Shabbat is. If you receive Shabbos, it's basically you're acknowledging the fact that you're worthy of receiving bliss. That we don't have that we don't really have a hard time with. But when someone tells us in our life, I really feel that you deserve to have your neshama be in a spa for a few weeks. Because that's what you, we can't do it. It's too much for us to, but Rabbi Shlomo said, try this. The next time someone says to you a compliment, don't run to the world of cynicism or sarcasm. Don't brush it off. See if you're able to just receive it and not be scared if you're getting lost in stupid pride. Stupid pride means anava psula. Anava psula means false humility. False humility. I remember when I learned this, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this on myself. And the next day I was playing somewhere. Someone came up and said a really nice thing. And I looked at them and I said to myself, am I supposed to say, I know? Or am I supposed to say, you're right?
Thank you.
You're just supposed to say, I know. No, I'm in my mind, I'm going through a whole thing of, wait, how do you receive this? Huh? You're right.
But that's just it.
You just pierced the heavens. Damn straight I did, right?
Then you're worried about what happens if tomorrow. And you place so great. Can I
That's
live
what
up
I
to
think
the
Jackie
thing?
spoke about, and that's what you
Right.
mentioned also. It's the responsibility. What happens if I acknowledge that there's a kedusha in me like that other person acknowledged? That freaks the daylights out of me. Because what does that mean about tomorrow? So that means you're not living in the moment. Because if you Ramish lived in the moment, and that tomorrow has nothing to do with right now, you'd be able to say thank you without that fear of what are the ramifications of this acceptance. Look, how many people get more into Yiddishkeit, but they consciously stop taking on certain things. Why? Not that it's hard for them, but it's because if I take this on, then what does that mean about the other things as well, right? But on a soul level, when it comes to compliments, we're like, it's a very, very heavy thing. Anyway, this is like, we kind of went on off right now, but the root of it comes from this tzaddik, Noach, who was just benaicha, who knew how to receive something. Receive that which is already there. The kedusha that's there. Did anyone ever come to you and give you a compliment that had nothing to do with an achievement? Did anyone ever come up to you and say to you, your presence, you didn't do anything. Your presence, thank you for being here. Those are the most meaningful ones. Just being here meant so much. Now those are the most meaningful ones. And when someone takes the time to say to you, thank you so much for being here, you added, like not just those those bracha cards, those thank you cards you have to give to red people after your. Bina and I started after our wedding. After 4 cards, we stopped. Thank you so much for coming to our simcha. And your presence added so much. Remember, wait a second. No one could have been there. It didn't matter anything. Just me, my wife, and Ribono Shleilim. So, why am I starting to say your presence added? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But it would have been the highest. I hope no one is getting offended.
No more of your sin.
No, but because to really be able to give that to somebody, the feeling of your presence, you didn't do anything. You're Noach, your Shabbos, your existence which just exists because you're here, added so much add so much to my life? I'll tell you the truth. That's how I feel with our shul here, with our chavra here. I really feel that. I really feel with our chavra. It's amazing. Sometimes, sometimes it's mamash irrelevant who goes up to daven, because so many of us are so happy that we're just in each other's presence. It's like the closest thing I've ever felt to what God had in mind when he thought of a minyan. That's how I feel about it here. I really, really do. I really, really do.
I asked my grandson, who's 8, I don't know why I love you so much. He goes, who's on me?
Okay, we're just going to do a little bit more, because it's already late, just a few more minutes. And here we come to Shabbos. We find the word to receive in the beginning of Shabbos, like we said before, Kabbalat Shabbat. To receive Shabbos. To receive that holiness that you can't add to, but you have to receive. You're not creating it, and you can't destroy it. Right? There's nothing you can do to make Shabbos less holy. You can make yourself less holy, but you can't touch Shabbos. You cannot destroy it, but the question is it clear to you that unless you receive it, it's not shining inside of you? Like a lot of people say, it's okay. I have the Kedusha that just exists, so I'm connected. That's okay. I don't have to take upon myself other things. I don't have to get deeper in life. I don't have to deepen in my marriage because we got married. Like that famous stupid husband who, the wife asks him, it's like, do you love me? He said, of course I love you. He says, well, how am I supposed to know? He says, I told you that 3 weeks ago, right? That kind it exists. It's there. Mapitom. Unless you're not working on it, that which exists doesn't shine onto you. And this has to do with our connection to the Holy Land as well. It is not enough to make aliyah. It's not enough. It'll die out. That excitement's going to die out. I hate to bring it to anybody. That excitement of, I'm connected to I did it. No, you didn't. I mean, you did. But it's mamish like marriage. It's over and over and over again. It's working on that which exists, and you just want it to shine and reflect upon you. So Rabbi Leibele Eger says something very strong. Noach is the introduction to the winter time. The story is a story of a flood. Everything is flooded. But you know who's remaining? Those people who are holding on to that holiness which can't be flooded. This really is the core of life and what happens to nature. And this is what happens in the world. Look what he says here. Everything which can fall off is falling off. Right? It's starting. I don't know if tonight was the first night that I mamish felt that it really changed into the next season. I felt it tonight outside. Tonight. Not yesterday, not the mamish, tonight. So he says, everything which can fall off is falling off, but really, the essence of everything is remaining. As time goes by, the essence is getting deeper and deeper, much deeper. Some people might think that the world is getting more and more rotten. He said this all the time. Rabbi Shlomo used to quote Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen with this. Here he doesn't, but the source of what he's saying is in the Lubliner, the Kohen of Lublin. Some people think that the world is getting more and more rotten, but it's not true. The truth is, the world is becoming so much deeper. If you could measure depth and height, you'd see it, that it's unbelievable. But where does it all start? After Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, after we mamish cleanse ourselves. The first thing after this cleansing, which we are working on, is to receive that holiness. Like we said before, what are you supposed to be doing right now? Parshat Noach, Menucha. Just receive it. Shnat Shmita. Just let the land absorb the 6 years of working on it. Now let it go in, let it sink in. The first thing after this cleansing which we're working on is to receive that holiness which is indestructible. Absolutely indestructible. And this is the first covenant God made with the world. God made with the world a covenant that the world will not be destroyed. And again, the Noach bashing drashas always talk about Noach was okay that it's enough that the world shouldn't be destroyed. Now it's true. Let's wait till Parshat Lech Lecha to talk about the Brit of Avram Avinu to realize that this isn't the highest level, but alavai that we could be a little bit connected to this Brit that Noach had with God of kviyut, of something that's always there forever. And you see, friends, this is the holiness of babies. The holiness of babies is that they didn't do anything good yet, but they really bring down from heaven this holiness that the world can't be destroyed. Because every child is a living witness. This is amazing. Every child they don't do anything. They haven't done anything on a ma'aseh level, but what do they carry within them? Every child is a living witness of the Brit of Noach that the world is going on. That blew my mind when I first learned that. Like, what is it that we feel so... Why are children so cute? Are they really so cute? Of course. But where does it come from? It comes from because deep down inside, they're living witness that the world keeps on going. I don't know, when I first learned that, I was blown away. It touched me so deep. So you see what it is. God made a covenant with Noach that the world would always be. But you know what it means? This was the level of Noach. Noach's level was to receive this indestructible holiness. So I think that this is the year. This is a really strong year. Every 7 years, obviously, always Shnat HaShemitah, what a strong year it is. But we've realized, I hope we've internalized the fact that on the level of ma'asim, level of actions, okay, Baruch Hashem, we've grown, we haven't grown, we've done some good stuff. Achdus Yisrael isn't exactly anywhere near where it should be. But now, when we're in this level, when you go outside and you smell that air and you'll start to feel that wind, you start looking at the branches and you'll start to see things falling off. Just be a tefillah that I pick up that which is being revealed to me when all the shmutz now, after I cleanse myself, anything that's left that doesn't really bring me anything also gets mamish blown away with everything else that's not needed to be. And alevai, please God, every baby that we ever see, it's so amazing that we have, the cutest baby in the world with us right now in the room while we're talking about all of this. A baby I happen to be very, very, very connected to on a very deep level, because these kinderlach they are the living testimony to the bris of Noach. Yeah, they didn't do anything, but they're carrying within them the message of what the Torah said to us in Parshat Noach. Bris Olam. The world will always exist. That should be enough of us to get a head start this year in understanding what true simcha is, and what really true accomplishment is, and what true inherent kedusha really, really is. I think it's the best way to start off this year. So Be'ezrat Hashem, this should be this year of this menucha. So I give us all a bracha, give me bracha back. Our neshamas need a little bit of menucha. A little bit of menucha. There's a lot going on. And this little Amalek piece device here doesn't help us at all. With any level of menucha, we should find those places where it's mamish on real airplane mode, for real. Get a little bit of quiet and enjoy it, and fall in love with what we find out when we actually let ourselves be a little bit quiet. All right, shukayach everyone. Thank you so much for coming.